Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to day 5, the final day of North American Contenders Trials. I'm Dor, and I am joined by Moxie, and we're here to wrap things up. We've got a big match up ahead. It's Odyssey versus the Saints. Mox, how you feeling about today's big match?
Oh, I'm looking forward to it because, well, not a lot is on the line for Saints other than pride, but if you're an Odyssey fan, you really want to get that golden score undefeated through your run of trials. Think how lovely that accolade would look hanging on your wall.
I mean, they're looking to make a serious statement coming in, and we're going to get in and talk about that upcoming matchup, ladies and gentlemen. But first, we have a word from a very important person. Excuse me. Hear ye, all who come to view Season 2 of the North American Contenders Trials. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you an important message from the king of Tier 2 marketing, Lord Legday himself.
Hey guys, Legday here. What's going on? I hope you are enjoying Contenders Trials North America, and I hope you've enjoyed our partner programs that are going on throughout the world to bring you all the action. I hope you've enjoyed some great programming, some great casters, and some great teams throughout the last 5 days, and thank you so much for supporting Tier 2, and for me and everyone else at the Path to Pro, thank you very much for tuning in to these broadcasts, and thank you to our broadcast partners for bringing you all the action. Just coming up for this next match, I personally am going to be watching out for Rhino to lead Odyssey to the 5-0 victory and the big odd statement that is going to make to North American competitive Overwatch. Enjoy the match, and back to your casters.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed that quick little message from Legday, the proclaimed king of Tier 2 management. But as for this scroll, it's completely empty, by the way. This matchup, however, is full of excitement. It's going to be Odyssey taking on Saints. And Mox, you mentioned there's some pride on the line for Odyssey. They're looking to take that 5-0 win streak. And that's a serious statement to be making going into Contenders. I know they want to come back swinging harder than ever. So why don't you start running us through this Odyssey roster that's feeling real hopeful?
Yeah, so these guys have quite a lot of a pedigree to the names. In fact, you're going to be recognizing a lot of players. You're going to have Rhino, who is 14 years old. Remember, this guy is an absolute monster on that tank role, backed up by Vulcan, Malfel, and Delph picking up the DPS slots, and Rack Attack and Lukimno going to be coming in on those supports.
Yeah, and then heading over to the other side of the field, the Saints roster is nothing to scoff at, but they've been really struggling. Sitting at 0-4 currently, 6th seed. They're out of this match, like we said, entirely for pride, but they have some pretty strong names on their team. They've just struggled to actually pull that together and work with the meta currently. So let's head down this roster. Skiz and Gao running up the tank line. Dicey on the hit scan. Hazard on the Genji, a player that we know has been up and down constantly, but has been especially down in this team. Really needs him to come today on that signature hero. The Genji is something that we expect him to perform on, but he just hasn't been lately. And then lastly, lining up on the supports, it's going to be HTP and Madero, who've been playing some really interesting stuff lately.
HTP not really feeling comfortable on that Brig role, it seems. In fact, this is a team that doesn't often have a Brigitte on their backline. They much prefer to swap HTP between either the Zenyatta or the Ana. And that is something that sort of comes back to haunt them in quite a lot of those engagements. You know, if you don't have that Brig, you're lacking that really key shield bash needed to keep a Genji away from your Batiste, which means Immortality Field is constantly going to be used too early. And if you have a Zenyatta, you may have a lot of aggression with that Orb of Discord, giving you 30% amplified damage on each of its targets. But Zen is very vulnerable, and when you put him into that position and you've got a Genji and you've got a team that really does quite go for your backline, and in this matter a lot of people do go for that backline, then that Zen pick can really, really be hard to pull off.
Yeah, and why they're running these support picks, we can only really conject about, but I think the Ana as well, you're running it for that nano boost to try and get Hazard to carry, and Hazard's someone, I mean, you and I have casted him multiple times before. We have seen this guy do some incredible things on Genji and Widowmaker, but he's been so quiet. The meta finally suits him, and he just is not able to show up. If there's ever a day, it's going to be now for this man. And I think his entire team is really counting on him because Saints don't show up if Hazard doesn't show up.
I mean, the last time that Saints and Odyssey actually knocked heads was that last season of Contenders, where Odyssey did take 3 maps against Saints. They were able to walk away with Anubis beneath their belt, and that was because Hazard popped off on that Doomfist and was actually able to come in absolutely clutch and get the picks needed to keep Odyssey away from picking up that second point, allowing Saints to take that map. And we know that this is a 1-2 series, right? You and I, we were both looking down that map pool. We saw that Anubis is in it, but unfortunately for Saints, it's on map 3. And so if you want to be able to go for a repeat performance and take Anubis against Odyssey once more, you first got to actually get another map on your side, either Ilios or Blizzard World, and we've seen Saints on Blizzard World. We know that they've never really been able to manage that payload pushed all the way through C. So this map, this is Saints' best bet if they're able to secure Ilios at taking us onto Anubis, at forcing that map number 3.
I mean, that kind of leads us on to what has been Saints' biggest weakness, has been their ultimate economy. And so, oh my goodness, they're running something we have not seen them on. And you and I talked about this earlier. It happened in their previous match. They got a little interesting with it, and it looks like they want to do that again.
I mean, I like it. Madera's going to be on that Moira, so while you don't have the immortality field, you do have that fade ability to keep yourself alive when Malphite comes for your head, but you will have that constant punishment. The Genji blade can come through and nothing's really going to be able to stop it.
But Gao's just going to be in a world of hurt this entire time. Lumino easily finishes him off. The Reinhardt stuck in a corner away from his support. He can't even have his babysitter with him at this point. Dove has no idea what's going on. Did not expect this competition, but Shiz taking down Rhino. That is the main tank now down. Wait a minute, Mox. Saints have a way into this fight.
Shiz coming in huge with that Wrecking Ball, but Hazard going out. Such a massive amount of damage gone for the side of Saints, and very quickly their team gone alongside. Now is going to say, if I go down, Vulcan comes with me, takes the enemy Sigma for a little bit of a ride along. But Odyssey will be picking up this point, and having that composition, that meta composition, is going to really come in handy for this team, because you're cycling up to some pretty powerful ultimates, right? You're going to have that supercharges, you're going to have that Genji blade. Each of these off into the McCree, so you do have that flashbang for when the Genji comes for your backline, but it's your tanks that are going to be so vulnerable. Gao on his lonesome, nothing to keep him alive.
Yeah, this Reinhardt's not gonna be able to catch a break, and a little part of me thinks this entire composition is based around trying to get people into the middle of that pit right now, because it's certainly not winning them any compositional changes.
Well, HTP's going to have this nano boost, right? And you can either put it onto Hazard and hope that he's able to find the value with the blade, or you can put it onto Gao. That's Reinhardt, who loves to go so aggressive. If you're able to give him just a little bit of a cushion, then Saints should be able to come and capitalize on that. But Gao alone, no team to support and decides to go on through, and Shiz drops the hammer bites afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much CC. This Reinhardt is just never gonna get in. Honestly, this is a leisurely stroll in the park for them. They're just having a good old time here on Ilios. Well, 60%. They feel perfectly fine about themselves. They've got themselves 4 ultimates in the bank. Now let's kind of talk about what can Saints do. Yes, this is a jank composition. Some might even say a meme composition, because the way they're coming in is starting to look like it. But there is a reality where they could win a fight or two here.
I mean, they've got that Shatter, and Madera's going to have that Coalescence, right? You pop the Coalescence, that allows Gao to actually close the distance to get the Shatter on through, but he doesn't even need to use it.
Yeah, but he can't follow up on the Shatter because there's just a halt and a coach gun, and now a Malphite in his face who's looking to take down one, looking for a second. Shiz shuts him down, but Dove's gonna find a second, and with that, the team just walks straight into the blender again. Odyssey, I don't think there's anything stopping on map 1.
Yeah, Saints, they've swapped off the Hammond, so no one going to be able to get that touch going to make overtime just a little bit longer, and we're going to see, well, going the way of Odyssey, pretty much uncontested. Those fights were very strange, with that very late swap onto the Zarya as well. If Gao was going to be playing that aggressively, the team could have capitalized on it if they'd actually knuckled down and helped him out. Gao, when he was going out and alone, felt very much in the vein of how Traces play, where you have yourself to rely on and yourself and the health packs around you only. If Shiz had been there on that Zarya with the bubble to give just an extra little bit of protection, you would have been able to just go for a little bit more of that aggressive play and help that Reinhardt find a little bit more value.
Well, luckily for Saints, they are taking your advice, sticking with that Reinhardt Zarya, and that's going to give him a little bit more presence. At least Gao's not going to be on his lonesome anymore. Skiz will be with him. This time, on the Sigma, which is a good composition to run with it. The Widowmaker's going to be holding down the long sight line, so a lot of the weight going to be on Odyssey and Hazard to actually end this fight on the Symmetra on the Widowmaker, because otherwise nothing is going to die. Your tank's going to have an incredibly hard time getting in if you can't get that first pick. And look at Malthal is already hunting down the Widowmaker, but Hazard's got a fully charged beam straight up in their face. Odyssey goes down, but so is the Baptiste. These health bars are getting dangerously low for Odyssey, but all of that CC is just so difficult to pass for Saints. Now that Reinhardt and Sigma are cornered in Odyssey, they're looking to just take another point.
Odyssey just have more sustain. They're running that Batista. They've got Immortality Field. When things go in dire straits in these combats, you've got a 25-second cooldown that you can just plonk down onto point and guarantees everyone's safety. Madera's got to work their way up to that coalescence. It takes time, it takes effort, and it takes surviving just long enough. As it is, though, you are going to have it in this next fight. Guy will have that shadow. We know that he can hit them. And Madera will have that ultimate that you can use as that follow-through. Especially because the HTTP has actually gone onto the Ana, so you can try and go for a little bit of anti-nade play as well, draw out that Immortality Field early. But Madera goes down.
You mentioned it's going to take time and effort, but I'm honestly not sure which of those Saints have left of right now. It's starting to feel like the latter. Because the way they made these pushes, I mean, you saw Madera run for the back line. He faded through Odyssey's tanks and, you know, it just sat back there happily. Maybe he's going for that gold DPS, but this match is starting to feel like it's going to be ending very quickly. I'm curious though, you think Odyssey are ever going to, you know, fall into it or maybe play something a little bit fun themselves?
Oh, Duff is on the Soldier. Soldiers is something we tend to see quite a lot of in any day and age of Overwatch, so I think they're going for some fun competitions themselves.
Does feeling good. This projected barrier is going to actually give them a little bit of precedence, but no. Dynasty is not long for life. Malthal straight up in his face, cutting him up a bit of Widowmaker. Sashimi finds himself a second one on Madero. Griddick, Flux from Shizo, connecting. They at least have made their way across the point. That's about as far as they've made it in this entire match, but the Saints go marching right back home to spawn as 76% ticks over onto the point.
Saints, I think HTP's just playing Mystery Heroes. Every time this off support dies, they came back on something else. So many things that we're getting to see. Pretty much all the spots of all the roster has it onto the Bastion as well. You can try and get him set up, but it's going to be so hard, especially because Odyssey have those ultimates that Saints, because they've reset the roster, will just not have access to.
Moxie, it's the legendary recon-only Bastion. I can't believe you haven't heard of it at this point. It's what they're known for, but unfortunately, if it reached the point, I'm sure Saints would have taken it over. There's no way Odyssey would have been able to match Hazard's legendary one-trick Bastion.
Well, that was definitely probably the strangest Ilios that I've ever witnessed in a very big year of casting. But the Saints, you know, they came in, they had a lot of damage on their side. That Symmetra could have been absolutely huge if charged up. But it's meta for a reason. Teams, they swear by it, they die by it. Double shielding is just so strong at the moment, even with the Brig nerfs going through, and by golly have Blizzard tried to get Brig out of compositions. They've just done everything they can except take away that shield bash, and that's why she's still stubbornly stuck in there. Like a little bit of apple peel that you just can't quite get out of your teeth. Because it's a little bit of CC, it's a little bit more of a backline protection, and that was just something that, well, Saints were lacking.
Saints were lacking a little bit more than backline protection in that match. But I think they might be able to bring something to the table. I'm curious whether or not they actually give the double shield a go. I mean, I can't blame them for not wanting to run it. It's kind of been the bane of their existence. I'm sure there have been a few nightmares about that composition because, I mean, I'm sure no matter how much they've reviewed, it just hasn't really worked out for them. And trying to have a good time on the last day. But I think we can only conject what kind of interesting, optimistic, hopeful compositions they're going to run with. And part of me kind of hopes that Odyssey go with it at least a little bit, you know?
It's just a tiny bit. You know, both of these guys, if they opted out of the meta into the comfort picks, and it would be a joy to see because at the end of the day, it's still a game. You still want to be enjoying yourself. But I've got my fingers crossed that we get to see more Widowmaker because it didn't quite work out for Saints on Ruins, did it? Because, you know, Malthal decided to rain on the Sniper's Parade by actually attacking them. But on Blizzard World, you have so much open line of sight that you can just go for a really nice cheeky shot. And even though Odyssey are running this meta, that's very hard to break through meta. If there's one thing that immediately breaks a composition, it's losing a Batiste early on in a push.
Absolutely. And early on in the push, not only, but early on in the map, I think is kind of the Saints' best way in here. Like, even with these joke compositions, even with the ridiculous stuff they're running, if you win that first fight, you do have a chance to get away with the ultimate advantage. And we saw in that previous map, they actually came relatively close with Hazard on the Symmetra, got relatively high charge, started getting those kills. The health bars were dropping low from Odyssey, so there's clearly some openings that they could look to exploit, but whether or not they actually choose to do so or choose to move in as a team, I think is the bigger question. That's right.
They'll look at the names and look at the roles.
Oh no.
HTP and Matero on the tank, and Gareth on the Moira, Shiz is on the Tracer. This is going to be Odyssey on all of the roles that they know and love, and Saints, HTP, they're off them, the main support. Going to be on the main tank role. Madara is, still a support of a kind. Roadhog, he's got that take a breather ability.
Well, are they just, is this? Oh, they're going for the bamboozle. They're looking to play attack. Moxie, that's the real play. Oh, defense is for suckers, I guess. Attacking point A is a lot more fun, apparently.
Everyone loves to attack point A, Blizzard, It's one of those fun ones where you don't have access to that high ground. HTP is going to be going onto the Zarya this time around. So again, this game of if you die, you've immediately got to swap onto a different hero coming in. And who knows, maybe they'll be able to build up to a grab. Maybe it will be enough to stop Morphle in their tracks with this Genji blade. Remember, it's no Ana in Odyssey's composition right now, which means no nano boost. But there's nothing really to stop Saints from getting this Genji time. They don't have the CC on their side.
Monero got pretty close there to getting the environmental kill in a spot where I don't think anybody's ever gotten an environmental kill with Roadhog before. HTP, well, he's getting one. That's at least a little bit of traction on the point. If we don't see another member of the Saints go down relatively soon here, they might actually regroup as 6 on accident, which is about the best thing that could happen to him right now.
I mean, all the while the payload is getting to pretty good. This is just taking the stereotype that Overwatch players don't know what an objective is, just a little bit. Too seriously, I think, as HTP is trying to build up to this Graviton, Lukima's knowing that you don't even need to go keep healing it to him. It's just gonna chuck an immortality field in there, because if you've got the ability, why not use it? And Odyssey will be coming into this next fight with, well, the ultimate economy. And this payload gets to keep on moving through what is the hardest part of a map to push through. We've seen hardly any payloads actually get all the way through Blizzard World, but I think, Joe, just a little inkling that we might get to see that payload hit the finish line today.
Maybe it's just a communal effort to set their record for world's fastest Blizzard World. Like, I actually think they're nearing it at this point. Malta's gonna blade at this point. I think it's just for fun, however. If he shows up big in the kill feed, maybe we'll pop off for him. I won't pop off for one though, Malta. You don't get anything for that. Rack Attack has a rally. 5:23 on the clock. Oh! HTP can't get anything but Edysti with, I believe, the second kill of the match for the Saints.
And it's a revenge kill as well. Multiple goes down, but Edysti punched in the face for their arrogance. Vulcan picks that one up, and it is Odyssey so close to that finish line. So close to that EMP that can shut all of this down.
Oh, Skiz, the Genji that Saints never knew they needed, takes out a person in an invulnerability field. That's more than Hazard's done this match.
Yeah, Edysti's able to get the kill as well. Rhino and Dove following shortly after. And Saints might just have won an actual fight as Vulcan sees Matero toppling off the map.
No
and
way.
I mean, if you're Odyssey, you're coming in with this EMP. You don't have any follow-up. You will have your normal abilities, and that might just be enough to clinch this one out as Shiz has gone onto the Bastion and once again looks to be in recon mode.
Sorry, Mox, I was busy wiping my glasses off. You said Saints they won a fight? Okay, everything's back to normal. They're getting team wiped again. I was getting a little bit worried there, like, we were falling into a black hole or something, but no, we're good. 4:14 on the clock. Odyssey finish in about as much time as we expected them to. Now, the attack is where I'm actually really curious as to what goes on here. How far do you think Saints can actually get?
I'm just going to be very interested.
They can't roll swap again, right? It's an impossibility. You're stuck on the roll. So that's the same people. We know at least that much.
Yeah. We know
That's all we know.
The tanks are going to be on The DPS, the spots are going to be on the tanks. Topsy-turvy world, but I mean, you and I, we were talking before the match as well about how hard Blizzard World actually is to even get that payload moving currently, because there is just so much you can punish if teams go for that really greedy play of splitting your composition, having the Sigma wrap around.
Oh.
And you know, I think if Saints go for that greedy play, they're going to get extremely punished because we wanted it. We hoped that Odyssey would lean into this particular brand of crazy. They might be on the roles that they normally play, but a Bastion and Pharah is an unorthodox Blizzard World defense nonetheless.
They've opted into the Clown Fiesta, which is what we want. You know, I don't want to say it's good sportsmanship, but it's the sportsmanship that I wanted to see as a viewer, as somebody who's watching this match, because watching the Saints just bash their head into point A repeatedly didn't sound like a good time. Maybe up against the Bastion, Malthal can offer us up something. Oh, but they're hiding it until the last possible sentence. Saints are going to have no clue what's about to hit them.
Dirty! This is filthy! Where is the sanctity of showing that you've got a Bastion, you're not holding on the high ground? Odyssey is able to get Dove out of the way, though. And we talk about how if a Widow's able to get a first pick, that should open the floodgates for the rest of your team, but you've still got to deal with that Bastion.
Oh, the jig is up. Skiz has seen them. The Genji's coming in, the dive has arrived. Madero up in on the Winston. HCP the first to fall. The Bastion's still not removed from his little hidey hole here. And now Skiz, he's just dashing across, a little dance of the blades, but I don't think the Saints are going to have a real push until they can regroup yet again.
I mean, Shiz is so close to that plane, though. This guy should maybe think about playing Genji more. 5% from an ultimate in the first fight, but unfortunately you just don't have a team to stand with. Right about now, Madero goes down, gets hooked in by Vulcan, straight to the bloodbath that is that Bastion composition.
Oh, Skiz right after the block ends. He goes down. So is this do you think this is a retreat? Do you think this is a regroup at all?
I mean, it's not a retreat or a regroup. Look at how he's right behind the point right now. Now it's a regroup because you've lost your Lucio, but Madero's going to try and take the high ground up, and that means you're going to be tooling Tub.
Now I've got to ask you a super important question here, right? As your play-by-play, I mean, you're doing analyst here. I need the deepest level of knowledge of Overwatch that you can apply to Saints composition right now. Is there any way in the world that this makes sense?
Waiting to meet you.
Oh no, poor guy.
I mean, you do see Gao able to fade past it, able to try and pop the coalescence. Not able to do anything with it, but able to survive.
They forced out the immortality field. That is the most they've done on this attack. So I'll give them a pat on the back at the very least. But right now, at Odyssey, they've got their entire arm in the cookie jar, and like Mom's not around to slap their wrist. They can have as much fun with this as they want. No, God, go get him. Who wins this 1v1?
Flying Bastion says, I mean,
I
Malthus is going to break open the ultimate. So this is the thing, right? Widowmaker's ultimate is so, you know, anticlimactic compared to a Bastion where you get to pull out a cannon where it just reaches up and taps the helmet a little
What
bit.
a sick flank from Madero, though. Primal Rage over the backline. They'll never see it coming. I wonder if the Saints are actually going to get a kill here on the attack.
I think they're trying, they're looking for it. Shiz is onto the Junkrat, so you might be able to, by accident, pick one up. As we can see, Cap just gets absolutely distracted. Madero has raised the DPI so much. And now they're just having, you know, a friendly, less friendly conversation on main road.
Madero is playing in 4 dimensions. He's playing so fast that the game cannot comprehend how hard he's winning right now. Or, pardon me.
Odyssey are playing Overwatch, and at the moment, Saints are playing 4D chess.
Yeah, literally, they know the map's about to be completed. The cart's at the end, point C right now, and Odyssey don't have a clue. These are all just holograms. HTP is fake. This DMX doesn't exist. What do you think happens to this? No, they're just gonna leave the Gremlin? Go Cap 8, quick! Quick, run! Run, HTP!
We believe it, and it's gonna kill! Kill! Smoking goes down!
Get it! HTP, you can do it! You're the hero your team maybe doesn't deserve, but needs.
Apparently, the hero shape doesn't quite fit their diva right about now, and Dove is still just holding on to this EMP. I wonder if Odyssey are just going to use it in that last little bit, or if they're just going to hold on to it as a statement, you know, showing Saints that they don't even need a key ultimate to win this round.
You know, I think this isn't a story of opponents right now, Moxie. This is a story of friendship. Look at this. Look at the harmony. Look at the peace. This is what Blizzard World really brings to us. The happiest place in Overwatch is what they call it. And
I mean,
there
we
is
got
where
to see
Odyssey...
it.
Yeah. They're going to happily
The
take
Horde of
themselves
the
to a
Alliance.
5-0.
It's just another World of Warcraft expansion, right? Every single time. One World of Warcraft expansion, they're at each other's throats. The next expansion, they're best friends. We get to see it. It's Shadowlands Alpha and Beta.
It's so fitting though. It's perfect for Blizzard World. It's an emotional roller coaster as opposed to the normal ones that they have there.
Well, if anything, we can say Odyssey's 5-0 run through the Trials bracket will most definitely be a memorable experience.
Yeah, and well, with that, all my notes for this match straight down the drain. Don't matter, but you know what? At least it was pretty entertaining, Mox. The Saints, they go out with some flair, and Odyssey, they get their 5-0. I think it's a win-win for everybody at this point.
I mean, I'm just looking forward to seeing all of those videos start popping up on social media. You know what to do, outside the world. You know what to do. We've just given you an absolute gold mine.
All right, Saints they're players of the people. You know, they've provided plenty of value. They know they're not going to make it to Contender, so they give Odyssey, they give the people, they give themselves as much fun as they can have. You know what? Had a pretty good time. It may have been short-lived, but I know you and I enjoyed it. And we've been enjoying this whole set of Contenders trials. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That's all the trials that we have. But be sure to keep up with all these teams. Well, not all these teams, you know, the top 2 seeds from either side of the bracket as they head on into North American Contenders. And huge congratulations to Odyssey for getting that 5-0. As for today, though, I want to give a huge shout out to our producer and our observer, because I know that wasn't a particularly easy match to do, but go ahead and show them some love in the chat. Thank you again for you guys for tuning into the match, and thanks for Leg Day for popping in just at the beginning. I've been Dor, though, and she's been Moxie. Take it easy.